Hello, everyone, and welcome to Coliving SEMKOVO live series, Building Great Coliving Spaces, Insights from the Luminaries of Coliving. Today we have Eduardo Fernandez, and we're going to talk about coliving architecture. Hello, Eduardo. Can you give us a short introduction of yourself and what is your involvement with the coliving industry?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in. I'm a Mexican architect. I have a design firm since almost 20 years ago, and what we do is basically we help people to give form and structure to their projects, and most of those projects have to do with projects that use architecture for other uses like businesses or housing people or showing things, so basically we're focused in the design and specification of the projects part, and we work with a lot of typologies since some years ago. We have been working in museums, housing, buildings, renovations, urban planning, and one of those typologies that we by accident we entered is co-living. So basically, what we do from the co-living point of view is we help design purpose buildings for co-living uses, basically.
From your experience, what are the current best practices in co-living architecture that operators should be aware of?
Well, that's a difficult question because I have, from my experience, I have to divide co-living. I have to divide co-living like in two parts, from an architectural point of view. I think there's people doing a purpose buildings, and people that are just adapting spaces for turning them into co-living, and both of them are okay, but I think that one of the best practices that co-living has to adopt is understanding that for housing people or for housing communities, you need a certain kind of space. I think there's a lot of things going around in the world that are called co-living, but are actually not co-living.
Yeah.
So
okay.
so basically, answering to your question, I think that the best practice would be like taking space really serious, because actually it's what gives you the property gives you the capacity to host a co-living.
Okay. What do you think is something that co-living operators should not forget when they start thinking about co-living architecture?
Well, from my point of view, the main thing about co-living have to do with common spaces, with sharing economies. Turning a living and spaces into part of a shared economy. So I think one of the best of the things that operators have to take in account is how will the common spaces make stronger their communities, right?
Okay. Yes, it's a very good tip as well. And what are some of the
and the other thing has to do with the application of technology.
Okay.
One of the things we have understand from design and co-livings is that technology has to make living easier, right? And this thing is something that a lot of people don't understand, why to invest so much money in technology. Because actually technology, what does is it lets you operate spaces more simply, and it lets you focus on building a community and not in operating, you know.
And what are some of the best examples of co-living spaces that get, the co-living architecture right?
Like the ones we have designed, or the ones that I have been in.
Whatever you feel like. Also, the ones that you've been in and you've been very impressed by the use of their space.
Well, there's a place in Mexico that's being built, that's called Público, and actually
Okay.
it's more like a co-working, not a co-living, but it actually it actually has the most percentage of common spaces that I have ever saw. Normally, when we design a co-living, we take in account it's a proportion of 60 against 40. No, 40% of the space has to do with private space, and 60% for common space. And this project in Mexico that's just been opened, what they did is they moved the percentage of common space up till 80%. So they're forcing a lot of the activities that still you had to do in a private space to do them outside. One thing I was really impressed with this space is they're pushing the industry far beyond the standards, and that's I guess that's a good thing to do, you know, because that's from one of the newest projects that's being built here in Mexico. One project I would like to talk about that we really liked, and actually it's being built right now, is a project we did in Pachuca. Pachuca is a city like an hour and a half from Mexico City, and here we could do a mixed uses building. It was like a 7-story building, and here what we did is we figured out that this particular space in this city had a lot of foreign salespersons. You know, a lot of corporate salespersons that have to go to Pachuca and stay for, I don't know, 6 weeks. No, and we also saw that there was a need for small rental spaces for co-working. And so this building was really interesting because we designed a private unit that could become an office or a co-living. And not only that, but it had the capacity to join the next one, the ones besides each other. So if you need it, let's say you need a place to live with one room and a living room, well, you can join two, and then you have this small suite. If you need a space with 2 rooms, you can join 3, you can join 4, you can join 5, and all the furniture was you can take it out. You can take out the bathroom and put in a kitchen. And not only that, but all the spaces, all the living spaces can become working spaces. So we have this building that has, in the back part, has all the common spaces for co-working and co-living and this shared economy. And in the front part, you have five stories of these units that have the capacity to be for working or for living.
That's very interesting.
The market will decide how the building will work. So that's a very interesting project, and this has to do with your last question. What's one thing to take in account? That kind of flexibility that architecture has to give you, you know, because not everyone needs the same.
Yes. You know that we are building Coliving SEMKOVO now, which has 200 apartments. What would be your number one advice that we should take into account for this project?
I think the best advice I could give you, from my point of view as an architect, is doing a really good project. It's taking in account that it's not only about like moving some walls and doing like minor adjustments for space. Co-living needs a lot of thought put into the projects, because the most important part about a co-living has to do with how the community operates, and how the community can operate on its own, and gain strength on its own, not only living together. So one of my best my advice I would give you is taking account that you have to do a really good project. You have to think a lot of things before doing them. It's not only about moving walls and putting furniture in.
Yes, thank you so much for these tips and advice and sharing your experience with us today. Everyone who is watching can connect with Eduardo on LinkedIn, and we also are streaming on Facebook as well. Please watch us every Tuesday and Thursday for a different interview every week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maria. Bye-bye.